Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Gennaro, and looking here, and we've got a decent crowd on this morning. That's good. Let's do a sound check before we get everything rolling here and get into the content. Make sure you guys can hear me all right. You can see the current splash screen. It says live technical analysis market movers for today, September 4th. That's all going good. If you guys could just give me kind of an electronic high five over the question box on your screen, that'd be great, and we'll get to the content here immediately. Great, guys. Thanks for doing that. Looks like everything's good on the technology side. Let's get the recording rolling, and we'll do a formal introduction for recording purposes, and then jump right into the charts for today. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Toby Gennaro, and I'll be your presenter for this morning. The topic for today is going to be live technical analysis, and I'm going to be talking through a series of specific trade setups in real time that I'm seeing in the charts and in the markets that we're going to look at. For those of you that are on the live webinar today, if you have any questions during the session, please do type those questions into the question box on your screen. I'll be asking you some questions as well, so we'll try to keep this interactive, which always makes it more interesting. And as we normally do, got to put up the risk warning and disclaimer. Got to do this as part of the business. I'll leave this up for about 30 seconds or so. If you guys could just have a quick read through, that would be good. In brief, what we're saying here is we provide education only, which means we do not give any financial advice. And as most of you know, trading the markets can be risky. It's not suitable for everyone, and you should seek independent professional advice. All right, everybody good? Taking a quick glance at that. And just one more disclaimer here from Nadex. If you can have a quick read through this one, it's a short one, and that'll wrap up the disclaimers for this morning, and we'll get going on the content here pretty quickly. All right, very good. Let's get started then. So to kickstart your trading every Tuesday morning, you can utilize this regular feature here from the trading team at Trade with Precision. You know, with so much going on in the market each and every week, big question is how can we spot opportunities across multiple markets and across multiple time frames? So you can join us weekly every Tuesday morning for this insightful live webinar where we'll be focused on technical and trend analysis across major markets to answer this question. Sometimes we throw in a little different one on Tuesday mornings, but in any event, it'll be something along the lines of live technical analysis and strategy and those kinds of things. Let's go ahead, jump into the live charts, see what kind of trading opportunities we could find for today and get you exposed to some of those. So what I did before we do that is I took a look at a couple of charts that I thought would be good to take a look at and consider for potential trading opportunities today. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those. Two of them that I have are the dollar CAD, foreign currency, and then we'll take a look at the S&P 500, basically the ES futures, and see exactly what we have to look at. And so let me get my screen set up here and make sure you guys can see everything so we can walk through the charts. So let's see. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to look at was the dollar CAD. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And I'm using my own trading software right here. I'm just utilizing TradeStation for charting simply because I can have multiple time frames up on the screen simultaneously, so we can move through these quickly. We only have 30 minutes, and so I want to get through these quickly so I can cover the content. But Nadex has on the platform, they have some great charts that overlay the ladder of all the binaries. You'll get everything from the daily chart all the way down to a 1 and a 2 minute chart, whatever you need, and you get all the data for free. So it's a great way to go. Doesn't cost you any money for the data. So so definitely encourage you to do that. But the one I wanted to take a look at here is the dollar CAD. And very quickly, what caught my eye rather, is the monthly and the weekly charts. And so the weekly, right off the bat, we have all the moving averages in alignment, the 200, the 50, the 20, and the 10. Love seeing that. We've got the first higher low right here, the first higher high breaking above the previous lower high. And then we have higher highs, and then higher lows, higher lows. And then we basically get a pullback right back into the buy zone and amongst that 10-20 period moving average zone. And we get a nice bullish rejection candle setting up, and then we get a break of the high. So we're a little late, but usually on the weekly chart, whenever it breaks, as you can see, it's going to run more than likely for several weeks, would usually be the pattern. And so once we get the break here, we're already moving. We still have very nice convergence of the trend right here with both the indicators, meaning that as price makes higher highs, the indicators are making higher highs as well. And as long as the indicators continue to make higher highs, then that tells us that the trend strength is still very, very strong. If we go to the next higher time frame chart, the monthly, we still have all of the moving averages in alignment. We've had a couple of pullbacks here, but it looks like we've bottomed out for now, and we've set up a nice indecisive candle right there, broke the high of that candle, and it looks like we'll be making a move at least back up to that 130, probably that 134, 135 level, if not this this level right back up here to the previous high, which is right around 138. So that looks fairly reasonable. Obviously, it's going to take some time since we're looking at some very high time frames. So timing is going to be the issue when we're utilizing Nadex binary contracts. But everything looks good throughout the charts. Let's just move down through some of the time frames here. As we look at the daily, we're starting to get a little overextension on we had a nice run up in that in the last week. So we've got a lot of overextension here, especially on the 8-hour. I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback on some of these intermediate time frames as we go lower and look for a setup. In other words, we have the monthly and the weekly that I like for a longer term trend. I just need to find a shorter term setup that will help get me into a high probability trade. For right here, a lot of overextension from the moving average. Same thing here. We don't have all of the moving averages in alignment on the daily chart. We're starting to get some alignment here on the 480, which means I'd have to go down a little bit lower to find a pullback strategy. So the first one that I could find is on the 240. We got the 50, the 20, and the 10 lined up. A pullback into that zone would be good. Same here. We've got the 200, the 50, the 20, and 10. A pullback into this zone around 131 would be very good, but we don't have that yet. Everything's still converging here on the indicators, which looks very strong. As we go down to 60, this looks a little bit more plausible here for the short term, which looks like it's pulling back into this zone here right around that 131 level. So we've got some more time to wait on that one. The 15 or the 30 minute is looking about the same. So as you can see what happens here, we can see this strategy in action. As price consolidates, it kind of pools right in and among that 10-20 period moving average zone. We get these nice little small bullish rejection candles in there. And as soon as we get a break of the high, the market just takes off until it consolidates again back in that zone. Another bullish candle, really nice rejection candle right there, break at the high, and the market just takes off again. So you can see how many times this happens in and around that zone. Sometimes you get some bigger candles in the zone. Normally what I like to look for are those nice small little candles and then a break of the high and we're ready to go. So for the 60 minute, looking for a pullback back into this zone. A lot of times it'll pull back right back into that 50% level, which will be a 50% retracement, which puts it right back into the buy zone on that 10-20 period moving average. We're still pulling back on the 30-minute chart, so we can go all the way down to the 15-minute. And here on the 15-minute, that's about the lowest we can go since we don't have all of the moving averages in alignment on the 5-minute. So I'd want to see a nice little bullish candle setting up here in the zone, and then a break of the high, and then I'd be looking for a move back up to 132, potentially even putting in a new higher high, and then see see what happens at that point. If we were to get that move back up to the 132, you might start to see some divergence on some of these time frames, like the 15 and the 30, and then there might be a deeper pullback, like on the 60 and the 120. But that'd be the first start, the 15 and the 30-minute that I'd be looking at for a setup, and that would be our trend flow strategy, which we'll teach you guys in the advanced course that we're doing as well, and you can learn all these strategies and all the price action analysis and the technical analysis that I'm talking about today to be able to identify some of these for yourself. So that's kind of what the charts look like on the dollar CAD. As you can see, whenever you get these rejection candles at the top with overextension, more often than not, that means a pullback, especially if it breaks the low right here. But in the meantime, we can find some smaller candles. There is a lot of upward momentum, and we can find some smaller time frame charts to trade. But overall, it looks like there might be a pullback imminent, like I was talking about on some of those middle time frames, that might be pulling back into the buy zone again for another longer trend in a higher time frame move. And since we're on the weekly chart, I mean, the last time we had a bullish candle set up, I mean, it ran for multiple weeks. So we could get a multiple week run, but in the midst of that multiple week run, I mean, you do have a lot of ups and downs. And so, you have to be careful and you have to understand your price action. And that's why we go through all the time frames and, look at all of those smaller time frames to make sure that we've got our timing right. Otherwise, if you get your timing wrong, it's just as easy to lose money in some of these moves, because you can see these swings are pretty extreme between 120, it looks like 127 and 130. So quite a few pips there to get caught in. So we just want to make sure that we're following our strategies and make sure that we have our strategy set up on two side-by-side time frames. So on that particular one that we just looked at, I was looking at the 15 and the 30-minute and just making sure that we get those candles closing out and getting that setup candle set up just like we did here. That setup candle has to close, and then while the next candle is forming, I would get my trade set up, and then I would be taken into the trade at the break of the high. So at the break of the high is my entry, and then at the break of the low would be my stop loss. Now, since we're utilizing Nadex contracts, we're not incorporating a stop loss because that's built into the contract. But here we can go and take a look at the charts. There's 131.8 is where the current price action is, 131.8, and then since we're on a smaller time frame, we can start looking at some of these smaller ones. 46 minutes, that could be as many as 3 candles, maybe not enough. I'd probably prefer a little bit more, but we can take a look at these. 131.8, that should be right around 50. If you're actually a little bit below that, so 35 going long, that could be a decent one to look at, and then all the way up to the 132 level, 1375. If the market actually made its move back to 132, you'd see that one somewhere around 40 or 50 at that level, and that's where I'd be closing some of those out. And then some of these down here are a little deeper in the money, so you can't get a one-to-one reward to risk. I tend not to trade these if they're more than $50 a contract, because I want to be able to risk $1 to make at least $1, if not $2 or $3 on the trade. So that means buying them at 50, selling them at 100, buying them at 20, selling them at 40 or 60 or 80, and try to get those those types of 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 types of reward to risk scenarios. If you're constantly trading $1 to make 30 or 50 cents, you're going to have an extremely high win rate in order to be profitable at any point in time. And it's virtually impossible to have such a high win rate all of the time. So that's why I look at some of these. If we went down to the next one, we would have 14 hours. That's a lot. There's got to be one for, okay, here's one for like 2 hours, a little less than 3 hours. So 131.80 puts us a little bit high because it's 59. We've got one here around 122 that puts us right at that 132, still within the realm of what we're thinking the market could do in that regard, at least today for the next 3 hours. And it also gives you a little bit of time. So it's almost twice the price as that one that we saw before that had 46 minutes on it for $13. If you want more time, you have to pay a little bit more money for that reassurance. But still, even at $22 a contract, that's still pretty reasonable for the amount of time that you have and the setup that we're looking at. All right, so let's take a look. So we got that nice little candle set up right there, and then all we need to do is just break the high of that candle, and the high would be right around 131.865. So a break of that would then get us into the trade. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. Always like to take a look at this one. The markets have been moving pretty well in terms of equities. And looking at the monthly chart, you can see this beautiful trend that we've had, since the market crash. It's been almost 10 years now, and the market's just been on one of the longest bull market runs that we've ever seen, going on to 9 years. And we've just we've broken up to a new high up around that 2,900 level and beyond. Here we have some divergence, setting up some bearish divergence. But on these higher time frames, you can get some of that divergence for quite a while. So we just want to kind of note that in our mind. Here we have some divergence with a lower high, but we've actually got some convergence starting again here as the market continues to put in higher highs and higher lows. We start to converge back up to a newer high. But for right now, we still have some bearish divergence on side-by-side time frames, which is not bullish. It tells us that this trend is a bit long in the tooth. We know that because we've been watching it for 9 years as well. But that doesn't mean it's going to, automatically just turn around all of a sudden just because we have a couple of signals on the charts. So we're going to need to see a lot of things throughout all of these time frames that would tell us that there's going to be some type of a bearish turnaround. But we're not seeing that as of yet. Here on the daily chart, we just have a lot of nice candles setting up in the buy zone, and the market just pulls back, and then it just runs for 5 or 6 or 7 days. Here we got a nice little, looks like about a 10-day run, taking a breather. It's pulling back into the zone, a nice pullback area. It'd probably be right back in and around that 28.65 level if we can get back there, maybe even right down in and around that 28.68. Puts us right back in the zone, looking for a nice bullish setup candle, and then potentially another move higher. So that remains to be seen. That hasn't occurred yet, but that would be something that I'd be looking for. All the moving averages in alignment, 250, 20, and the 10. Everything looking really good right there as far as the trend. And you can see the higher highs, higher lows, nice small candles throughout the trend. Everything looks very predictable right there. Here on the 8-hour, you can see we got a setup in the zone right here. We got a break of the high, and it turned around. And so normally if we have a lower high, we've broken down to a lower low, that means that the next higher time frame is where I'd be looking for that pullback into the buy zone. And that's why I'm looking at the daily chart, because we're not getting a setup on the 8-hour just yet. So everything looks good here as far as higher highs on the indicators. So that looks pretty strong as well. I think we're just getting a little bit of a retracement here, and so there might be, a consolidation before things take off, but that daily chart is going to be the one to watch. Here, going through some of these smaller time frames, not going to help us any. We don't have the moving averages in alignment. The 10 and the 20 are crossed over to the wrong side. And then as we go down to the 60, you can see it starts a little bit of a downtrend, and then we're in a full downtrend here on the 5 and the 15 minute. But as we start to retest some of these lows, like around 28.86, you'll start to see some, some bullish divergence start to set up. And usually these are some of the turning points. If we end up doing some pullbacks on some of these other time frames, you'll see that if we potentially do get back to that 28.60 level, 65 level, then you might start to see some bullish divergence on some of these lower time frame charts. And that gives us an idea of when some of those turning points are, in addition to, the fact that price is in the buy zone here and we're getting a nice rejection candle if that actually does occur. So I usually like to see these not above the 10 period, but I like to see them right in the middle between that blue line and the black line, right between there, just like we have them set up right there. We have them set up right there. That's really what what I like to see, another bullish candle setting up right there, and then the break of the high, and then the market takes off. So for this right here, we don't really have a setup as of yet. So that's going to take some time. But looking at, let's see, right around 28.65 for, we'd probably would be looking at, because we don't have the daily, and sometimes it could even consolidate for a day. So the only thing I'd be looking at for this one, if we did get a setup on the daily chart, I'd be looking at a weekly. And this one's got 3 days on it, which should be, decent depending upon when we have that setup candle. The setup candle may not happen until tomorrow, and then we're only going to have 2 days left on this one. So sometimes, the timing doesn't always work out the way the contracts are set up. But this is the minimum that I would be looking at would be the weekly chart. And so something around 28.67. That'd probably be the only one available here. All the other ones are a little bit too high. 28.79, not for 3 days. If it was the beginning of the week and I had maybe 5 days, I'd be looking a little farther out. Here, I'd be looking to keep it right back into the buy zone, which was that level right around 28.65. Right now, they're looking at about $82 a contract, but once they pull back into that zone, if it's right at 28.67, then the price will be right around $50, and that's usually the delta for an at-the-money options type of contract. And so that would give us at least a 1-to-1, and that would be something something reasonable that we could look at. So let me take a couple of questions here. If you guys have any, let me see. Okay, no questions. So let me just wrap up here with a couple of things that we have going on. We have, and let me get this screen blown up here. Just excuse me for one moment while I get my my screen set up on my end. And so what I want to talk to you a little bit about as we close out is the Nadex Premium Trading Strategy course. So we're getting this fired up again. This is something where you can learn all of the technical analysis that I've been talking about this morning. You can learn to master price action, just like I'm talking about. You can understand how to set up your charts just the way we do, and we'll teach you 2 trading strategies. The one that I was showing you today, this pullback strategy, and then we'll show you another one, which is a flat level breakout strategy. So we'll teach you 2 trading strategies in this course that you can learn for yourself and you can learn to master over time. And this will be delivered, talk a little bit about this. This will be delivered over 3 weeks in 3 installments, 2 hours apiece. So you're getting a total of 6 hours of technical trading education, all sponsored by Nadex. Doesn't cost you anything. If you were to buy this directly from us, this would sell for well over $900. But it's all free and sponsored by Nadex. All they want you to do is just open an account with Nadex and throw some money in there, and you can have and take advantage of this great opportunity. I think it'll take all the information that you probably already do know and have experienced in trading the markets, and it'll kind of take your trading to the next level. So the way these will be conducted is very similar to today. It'll be conducted by a Trade with Precision trading team member. We'll conduct these as a live webinar, so you can ask questions about the content, just like we're doing here today. And that'll give you the ability to just get a better understanding of some Q&A, looking at live charts, looking at all of the detail as to how to trade with how to trade with a trading strategy. And that's really the idea, learning how to protect yourself in terms of risk and all those kinds of things, and doing basically what professional traders do. So we'll show you all of that, and I think that'll be well worth your while for you. So as I said, Nadex is making an investment in your success as an investor. That's why they're sponsoring events like the one that we're doing here today on Tuesday mornings. A couple different ways for you guys to get in touch with us. Phone and email listed here for any questions that you may have, or you can ask me your questions right now, just as you've been doing by using the question box on your screen. Demo accounts are also available to provide you some familiarity with the Nadex contracts and what we've been talking about today. So that's always a wise move. For current members of Nadex, if you'd like to begin trading again, just log in to nadex.com, take advantage of the advanced education webinar that I just talked about. I think it'll help you take your trading to to the next gate, if you will, and help you to make some smarter trading decisions based on real market price action is what we're trying to accomplish there. If you're new to Nadex and you'd like to set up an account or open an account to take advantage of that advanced education webinar, again, just go to nadex.com, click on the orange box. I believe it's on the top right. It says sign up. Just fill in your details there. Someone from Nadex will respond via email to get you started. But before you sign off, there is a short survey upon your exit. Please fill that out. Let us know your thoughts, how we did, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us. And if there are any other questions, I'll take those questions now before we wrap up. If you have any, give you guys maybe a minute here to get those keyed in. If you have any questions about any of the content that we went over or anything about the advanced education webinars that are upcoming, if you'd like to get the dates on those, just get a call into the 800 number at Nadex, and they'll fill you in on the dates that we're running those. And then you can also get signed up if you have an account with Nadex and get on the list for that.